The Art of Delegation, the Key to Good Management, with J.B. Tomlinson. J.B. Tomlinson has over 33 years of experience in the advertising agency business in Toronto, Vancouver, and Montreal. J.B. acquired his Bachelor of Commerce degree at the University of British Columbia. He worked with agencies in Vancouver and Toronto prior to being named Media Director of McCann Erickson's Montreal office. He was then promoted to the Toronto office as Vice President of Media and Programming. He later moved to Hayhurst Advertising as Vice President, Director of Media and Programming. When Saatchi & Saatchi bought Hayhurst, he was hired by Harrison Young, Personen and Newell, the #1 media buying company during the 90s, as Vice President of Media Planning. JB looked after accounts like Coca-Cola, Nike, Cara Foods, Honda, General Foods, Colgate, Royal Trust, Telemedia, and Visa, to name a few. JB incorporated JBT Enterprises, a firm consulting in the fields of media planning and buying, corporate management, personal training, and coaching. JB's natural talent for delegation prompted his management team to create inter-office training sessions on delegation and time management. With some detailed research, JB put together this remarkable presentation on the art of delegation. And now, JB Tomlinson.
The key functions of a good leader, of a good manager, are simple. It's to serve the clients and the corporation and to promote both. What does this really mean? It means your job is to think, to come up with new ideas, to come up with new programs, to come up with ways to serve the client and the corporation better, and to get any job that you're assigned done as efficiently as possible. Well, you can't accomplish any of these objectives if you are doing. We've got to stop doing and start leading. We've got to create team building, grow our people, and sell our talents. We become managers of people, not guys who do a specific job function. Delegation is a mindset. Step one is, what can I delegate of this task and to whom? Step two is assigning everything that is assignable. And step three is simple. Keep on top of it all and take back when necessary. So what is the attitude of a delegator? It is, my success is directly related to the people who work with me. You choose well, you train well, and you delegate well. You make work for become work with. Everybody knows they work for somebody, but not all that many people believe that they work with other people. That's teamwork. The delegator's attitude has to also be, I am responsible for everything, good or bad. You have to be honest and fair. And after delegating as much as possible, the final step is you give credit and you cover blame. Now, what do I mean by that? Let me give you some examples. At one point, one of my assignments was Cara Foods. And I had a media supervisor who worked on Harvey's and another one who worked on Swiss Chalet. And I'll use those as examples, slightly exaggerated. We made a major presentation to our client on the annual budget for Harvey's. Somewhere along through that presentation, something went wrong. And by that I mean the client was upset and annoyed. And he started to deal with my supervisor, Mary. And he started to give Mary a pretty hard time and was blaming her for the foul up. And I immediately interjected and said, "Nope, sir, this is my fault. I have neglected to pass on the appropriate information. We will be back to you tomorrow with a revised plan that will solve this problem." Okay, he was happy. Mary was delighted. Well, a week later, Michael was presenting the Swiss Chalet plan. And as the head of the account, I'm sitting in as I did with Mary's presentation. And this one goes superbly. Some new ideas that we presented were accepted, and the client was ecstatic. And he turned to me and started to tell me how pleased he was. And I said, "Please give those compliments and thanks to Michael. He did all the work. My job is to be here to see that everything flows smoothly. But Michael gets the credit for all this." Now that's slightly exaggerated maybe, but I can tell you that both clients were happy, and my people that I had delegated to were ecstatic. And they knew that I was always going to be there to cover them. And they knew that when something went well, they would get the credit. And that is excellence at the art of delegation. So what are the reasons that we don't delegate? As we go through this, I'd like you to note those that are your reasons and try and change that. First reason is fear and insecurity. If this is your reason, then you shouldn't be in the position you're in. The second is you're afraid to lose control. Delegation does not lose control, which I'll show you later on. The third might be, I'm not a team player. Well, you'll be found out and you'll be gone. But while we're talking about teams, I want to point out that the boss is the coach, not a player. His team are the players. And some of us have lack of trust in our staff. Well, that being the case, get rid of them or train them. Replace them or make them better. And some people's answer is, I'm not organized enough to delegate. And this is really foolish, because the moment you start to delegate it, the better organized you become. And I've even heard the excuse, well, I'm not busy enough to have to delegate anything. Of course, the moment I heard that, that person became much, much busier by assigning her more and more work to do. And another excuse is, I'm too busy. And of course, that is the worst excuse of all. Because if you got rid of half of the things you are doing, and by delegating them, you wouldn't be too busy to supervise and see that it's done well. And I've even heard, well, that isn't in my job description. My reaction to that excuse was, well, you're fired. And the biggest excuse that we hear is, I know that I can do it better, so I might as well keep on doing it myself. And that, of course, is the excuse of somebody who doesn't want to give anything away. And it doesn't matter that you can do it better yourself. If somebody beneath you at a lower pay can do it 80% as well as you can, well, thank your lucky stars and move on. So second, just because you can do it better doesn't mean it's right. You could probably clean the windows better than the person who does it, but does that mean you should do it? No, of course not. It doesn't matter that you do it better. Train somebody, delegate it, and they will start to do it as well as you. Now let's look at the reasons that we should delegate. First, it's obvious. Let's get the work done. The second is that as you're delegating, you are training. You are growing your people. You're promoting participation within the department. And you're building a team, which will result in job satisfaction of those people that are on your team. It allows you to assess the skills of each and every one of your team. And it results in the sharing of information and responsibility with communication and feedback. But the biggest and most important reason for delegating is because it'll make you promotable. You will be kept in tough times. You will get a better job as you continue through with that company. You'll get accolades on a constant basis and the trust of your superiors. And all of that adds up to a promotion and more money. So those are the reasons we should delegate. So what exactly is delegation? For the many years that I spent studying delegation, reading other people's ideas, I discovered a beautiful definition for what delegation is. It is the art of achieving specific, predefined results with the empowerment and motivation of others. A lot of big words in there. Let me repeat that. Delegation is the art of achieving specific, predefined results through the empowerment and motivation of others. Now, there are 4 corners to delegation. The first corner is responsibility. It's assigning to others full ownership of the results to be obtained. The second corner is accountability. It is defining the exact results the delegator is expecting and asking the individual to attain. And the third is authority. You are granting the power and the freedom and the right to act within established parameters. The fourth corner, the most important corner, is control. There has to be progress reviews and follow-up. There have to be specific deadlines. And the way to really establish a deadline is to call the person in, outline the job and that you're delegating and the time commitments you believe they're there, and then ask them, when could I expect you to have this done? And they might say, if it was a big, heavy-duty job, they might say, how about a week from Friday? Now, if you know you don't need it that soon, then you say, let's make it 2 weeks Monday. That'll give you a little more time. But if you know that you need the job before a week from Friday, which was their suggestion, you ask whether it would be possible for that to be done by a week Tuesday at 5 o'clock. After a little bit of discussion, you end up with a deadline. But I want to make the point is, you have created the deadline with their full participation. So it isn't your deadline. It's the deadline you and the person you're delegating to agreed to. That's how you set deadlines. They have to be involved, and they have to feel that they agreed with the deadline. And you should have discussed with the person you delegated the chore to that there may be intervention. You may have to get involved. but you only will if these kind of things happen. So you've got to tell them what might happen that might change both the deadline and your participation. So to kind of repeat that, there are three aspects of delegation. One is planning, sitting down and discussing with everyone involved and getting their input. And two is initiating the specific delegation, assigning and setting deadlines. The third aspect is controlling. There must be regular checking. You have to know where the project is at, and you have to control the documents, even though you have delegated. Let me give you an example of what I mean by that. At one of the places that I worked, there was this really bright young account supervisor. He handled the TD Bank amongst other jobs. And one small aspect of the TD Bank was an account that had nothing to do with normal advertising. So he assigned that to a gal who worked for him. And that was fine. He delegated it, and she did a good job. Trouble is, he didn't control it. Over a year went by, and he hadn't been to see that particular client. She knew that she had the client in the palm of her hand, and she went to his boss and said, I don't want to report to him anymore. I want to report direct to you. And with the client agreeing that this is what should happen, that's what the big boss had to do. So somebody got a promotion that didn't deserve it, and somebody lost a great deal of respect and authority by not keeping on top and controlling what he delegated. And speaking of control, what do you do when you've carefully assigned a task and it came back all wrong and you're fuming? Well, ask yourself, did I communicate my expectations properly? Did I maintain checks along the way? Was the employee properly trained to do what I delegated? Because if that person failed, it's probably not his or her fault. Why would they fail on purpose? So take a long, hard look at yourself. After you've had that hard look, if you are still totally convinced that the employee that you assigned this stuff to failed to do the job properly, then have them into your office, close the door, and ask them what went wrong. And try and see to it that this problem is solved and it won't happen again. One of the keys to really good delegation is to know what turns your people on. Each person has something different that they want out of their job. Some want responsibility. All they really want to know is that you are counting on them to do the job. Others want advancement. They're looking for the next position, the next opportunity to move up. Some want recognition. That means a lot of applauding, telling them how good they are when they are good, letting other people know how good they are. And some of them want growth. What they really want in the job is the opportunity to continue to grow as a person and an employee. Some want to just be part of the team, and that isn't hard to satisfy. So once you know what the button is, what turns your people on, you then know how to deal with them. For example, you've got somebody who's worked long and hard on a major project and finally got it done. And you reward them by saying, take your wife out for a dinner at a really decent restaurant on me. They're going to get recognition at home as well as in the job for what they did, if that's what they want. So find out what the motivator is in each person and use it. That's delegating well. In conclusion, here are what I call the delegator's dozen around major projects. First, set clear and simple objectives. Select the delegee, train the delegee, get their input. Now you assign the project, giving them the reasons why. You provide the necessary guidance, and you make a contract regarding the deadlines and the content. Then you have to establish controls, maintain those controls, provide feedback to the delegee, identify the lessons learned, and evaluate the performance. Summary statement: ask, don't tell. It is imperative that your staff respect you. The art of delegation, the key to good management.